The Hustle Share podcast is sponsored by One CFO, the Philippines' leading fractional CFO services provider for startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. Experience the power of tech-enabled, efficient, affordable, and expert-led fractional CFO services. Let One CFO handle your finances so you can focus on growing your business. Book your free CFO consultation today.
I think it's also something that I don't know if it probably a divine thing that I didn't know it yet, so that I could focus more on how I'll be able to rescue others and then bring them back to Manila, mobilize my friends and mobilize the LGU in Tarlac na how they can bring these people to stay in Manila.
Welcome to Hustle Share, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Baetiong.
Welcome to this episode of the Share Podcast. I am back. Apologies for the last two episodes. You're like, hey, this sounds familiar. Yes, they were familiar because the past couple of weeks I've been sick. There's this weird bug going on. My wife even caught it. It's a cough, but it doesn't linger. But it's gonna knock you out for a couple of days, and then it will stay for a couple of. It's just weird. But I was well enough to work. It's just that I was not well enough to podcast. So apologies, everyone, if I wasn't able to release. So ito na, we're back. We're here to feature amazing hustlers, and I don't know why this took forever and why we're just doing this now, but it's long overdue, and we already have her here. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Miss Shoemate Royo. Whoop, whoop. You, finally, you're here.
Hi, Ron.
Yes. Again, I told you before we started recording that you are an integral part to my Hustle Share hustle. Because 2019 DevCon, I was probably a couple months into Hustle Share. And I was doing this format of a Hustle Share quickie. It's like a condensed version of what Hustle Share is without going through the whole dance. So it goes, second base right away, for example. And then she was like, hey, why don't you podcast during the conference? So you put me into this little box at the behind the conference, and you know how many episodes I did there? And it's still to this day the most recordings I've done in one sitting. Okay. It's 5. I did 5 episodes. I was like, wow, that's amazing, but I'll never do that again because, oh my God, I felt like I was already a rakista on episode 5. My voice was hoarse and the energy was waning off. Like, all right, I'll probably top out at 2 or 3. Okay. 5 is too much. So again, thank you so much. I now know my limits. Sure. Because of that.
Thank you as well for saying yes to that offer. I was actually telling my team, hey, can you check Ron in that small room? I don't know what's happening to him because everyone's busy during the summit.
Yeah, right? Is he still talking? Is there still coming out of my? But again, a lot of solid episodes on that. So if you want to check out what those episodes were, just look back probably 6 years ago. So it's Hustle Share quickies per se. But again, it's all about you, Shu. And I need to ask you the $1 million question. Shu, what's your hustle?
Okay, I would say that my hustle is more on really community building and then eventually expand into really ecosystem building. Because I've seen that when you put community at the heart of everything you're doing, it kind of brings everything, whether you're building a startup, or you're doing an social impact, or you're running an organization, nonprofit. So my hustle is really more on now, it's an ecosystem builder.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I just want to be specific because I totally agree. But again, these are just connotations in my head. Right? There's a community building, which again, very grassroots. But there's a term called ecosystem building. How would you define the difference between a community builder and an ecosystem builder? Obviously, the scale is bigger, but how would you define that?
Okay, let's start first with the community building. So specifically, you are really targeted a particular niche or group wherein everyone gathers together advocating for a similar cause or whatever it is, whether it be a tech or non-tech. nonprofit, something like that. But then as an ecosystem builder, I learned through the years that it's more on really allowing other stakeholders to be involved in what you're doing. It's not just you and your community alone, but you need not just the talent, not just the partners who provide you either in cash or in kind or whatever reason, but even the policies and the things that we really need if you really want to have sustainability in what you're doing. So that's why ecosystem building, things that involve people, talent, resources, and the law and the policy behind it that could support whatever you're advocating.
Totally agree. Because in order for it to have a chance of growth, you need to have a lot of these things, if not all, to work together.
Yes. And it's hard.
It's hard. And there's a lot of things outside of your control. That's why I have nothing but respect for you guys who do this, because, man, hard startups are hard. But a lot of those things in the startup ecosystem, I don't know, it's startup founder life. I'd say a lot of it's within your control. And if you just trace it back, you can actually fix a lot of those things, or mistakes and whatnot that you can come through. But ecosystem, there's so many things outside of your control that require cooperation of other people. Of course, that varies in terms of their priority over that things. But for you guys to keep going, nothing but respect. Now, again, Shu, I need to shut up a little bit because it will be a bit of a bumpy ride. And this is where I remember also going to your office in near De La Costa, your old co-wo. Yeah, and I said every once in a while the memories of that talk I did pop up. But that's just the last one that I've actually talked to you about, and I don't know anything about your beginnings. So I need you to buckle up real quick because we're gonna have to ride the Hustle Share Time Machine. And we are back. So, Shu, before we start talking about ecosystems, before we talk about anything else, I want to understand your first exposure to hustling that you remember. And what was it like growing up? Were you did you have the foundations of ecosystem building or a founder before? What was that like?
Okay, yeah. I would say that my career is actually really like a roller coaster ride. My active background is actually academic. And to be honest, actually a teacher.
Teacher, Shu?
Yes, I'm a teacher. And it's history. It's history, actually. I do teach before. But then I realized that I'm trying to box within the classroom. So I always explore outside. And teaching history to young people is kind of boring for them. So I have to be creative and delivering the class to them.
History
so
was where's your class?
I'm actually taught in high school. So high school student. I also had an experience teaching preschool.
Wow.
So in high school, except for the tertiary, of course. But those are the things that I've done in the past. No particular, no specific, no idea that I'll be into startup or into entrepreneur. I would always say I'm an accidental entrepreneur, to be honest. So my background is an academe. My heart goes to the young people, and then finding an opportunity for them to really understand what's happening in the market. It's not enough that you're passionate on something. It's not enough that you teach them, but you actually, it's my personal burden that I need to show them these are actually the opportunities outside that you can check. And then whenever I go back to my student and I then was able to identify their strength, example, one kid loves to draw. And then there's game developer community outside that I've been involved in volunteering. That's where I also got involved in DevCon as a volunteer way back. That's it. It's like started with the desire to make these young people understand what are the opportunities outside.
Okay.
And then how can I bring it back to them, me as their teacher. And that's also the beginning of the desire of why not bring Google Office idea in the Philippines, the co-working idea. And then I started doing research, and then I started actually the first co-working space or like the collaboration idea that inspires me actually started in Japan. So they have what they call Shibuya University.
Okay.
So out in that place, so there are like a community gathering wherein the speaker would teach something, and all you have to do is just bring on anything that wish list. So it's like a trade school thing, barter kind of learning without putting in money. And then I say, okay, that's a good one. So if I'm gonna bring the people that I met in the community, those volunteer organizations that I am involved, and then match it with my students, probably that would spark something like more an inspiration, because I don't know exactly what's happening outside, not unless I meet these people and connect with my student. So no idea at all na, oh, I'm gonna build an entrepreneur. I'm inspired by this founder. No, but just the desire to have a space wherein I can gather the mentors and the student and have an apprenticeship kind of thing, similar to what Finland is doing in their education system. So that started. So I wrote everything on my notebook. I love to write.
It's your shui. There you go.
Curriculum, I'm super, even if I close my eyes, I can write programs. I can write curriculum. I can do plenty. So it's kind of easy for me to craft the entire, how would I like it to be on an academic perspective. So I don't know if you want to continue, but that's because I think that's around 2019, not 2019, around 2011, I started having those ideas. And then fast forward to 2015, of course, there are changes of career. I decided, I think being boxed in a classroom as a teacher is not really for me. I want to explore outside. So that's where I started. Perhaps my first hustle, going back to your question, my first hustle is more on research in the UP of economics. So I have a research, like a part-time thing. So I'm really into that. It's like my goal is always to understand what's happening, what are the case studies, what are the white paper written out there, and how can I can study more the researchers that they created. Right. So that I love really doing. And then eventually, after that research, someone, just a friend of mine told me, hey, Shumate, there's a very rich guy living in Forbes, and he wants to build a business related to shoes. It's like the handmade shoes for men. So he want to compete and create his own. So so that's the first involvement of my first involvement as a business, but doing like crafting or opening a business for him. So I visited Marikina. I frequent to Marikina every now and then, try to meet all the zapatero there, try to understand and created really a business for him, and I presented it to him. So no idea at all. I'm doing actually pitching already. I'm actually doing like market research. Things that typical startup founder should do before even going into the market and building it, right? So those are the things that I kind of be involved for that rich guy. But until after a year, I just noticed that it seems like he's not the kind of founder or startup or entrepreneur who would like to risk, because he just want me to do the research for him, but not actually really push it, not really even register it, because he's been buying, which I kind of find it weird. He's been buying a lot of stuff like machinery just to test out his own prototype. He's really spending a lot, but no direction, no risk at all. There's no risk in him. Doesn't want to really be involved. It's just like a passion project for him because he has a lot of money. And I think that, okay, if that's his direction, I think that's not my plan, because I don't see any growth at all. So I resigned on that one. And then this is where the accidental entrepreneur comes in, because I frequently joined during that time, around 2015, late 2014 to be exact.
Right.
I always join mountaineering clubs. So I hike with young people. And then one of the group member, one of the climber, we had a dinner meeting after the climb. And then she's an interior designer, and she told me, hey, Shumate, I'm an interior designer, but I don't know where to get a good office, something like that. So she's telling me that she couldn't afford a building or even a small space because she's starting. And then it pops in my mind, hey, I've been studying co-working spaces, both local and international, to the point that I tried to meet all the co-working space owners in the Philippines.
Mhm.
Visit their place, and then I told her, these are the list of co-working spaces. Shout out to a space. So
There you go.
they're my benchmark when it comes
Matmo. There you go.
Matmo, of course. And then I told her, okay, visit these co-working spaces. I know the founders, they are really good. Their spaces are nice. They offer super good services for you. Just go there and check it out. And then she asked, why do you know this thing? And then I just told her because I've been studying it, and then was able to share with her the things that I wrote on my journal, and that hopefully someday I can have my own as well.
Yeah.
And after 2 or 3 weeks, she called me, Shu, let's build a co-working space. So it was early morning, she just called me, and so parang kagigising ko na, sabi ko, again, you can go to A space, these are so my mind. I thought she was me and reconfirming what are the spaces she can take.
Okay.
And then no, sabi niya, no, we're actually, I already have an investor.
What?
Initially, who wants to build a spa. But after you pitched to me the co-working space idea, and then I told her randomly, she says, let's build that one. Can you be our partner in building a co-working space?
Wow. Holy shit.
I was okay. I just said, okay. And then I go back to my notebook. You know what? Parang, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Oh, after almost 5 years of putting it on my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And then having that intense research and that desire to really have a space for collaboration, not just for young people, but for entrepreneurs and everyone who needed it. And then here comes an opportunity knocking at your door. Let's build it together. Me without even putting any money, just a sweat equity.
Right.
Yeah. So, and after 3 months, that she called me around February. After 2 or 3 months, we started building because she's an interior designer. She can.
So that shit's gonna look really nice.
Yes. Our space, right? So it's industrial look. It's not, probably not first of its kind, but it's kind of different among the co-working spaces that we have. We got a lot of features in magazine, being a unique space in terms of visual.
Yeah.
So, and then the investor, and surprisingly, and it also it also gives me hope that, hey, there are really people, Filipino. She's actually a Filipina investor.
Yeah.
I would say an angel one, because she doesn't even ask, what's your background, Chumi? Do you even have a business background? Were you able to launch any startup? And what's your track record in putting up one?
Right.
No question asked. She just give us the money, ask us what, how much do you need to build this one?
Okay.
And then after a couple of months, come August 2015, we opened the office project co-working space in Makati.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, this is where I remember going already. What, I think 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't sold chatbot yet, but I do remember talking about how I failed in Party File. Right. But yeah, before we talk about that, so I kind of have flashes of what happened in the office project. I want to ask one thing first, and I'll track back a little bit. Sure, I want to understand the skill stack that you developed while you were a teacher. That translates, that you still bring along with you, because you mentioned earlier that you think in curriculum and you think in syllabi per se. Well, what are those things? Because I have nothing but respect for teachers. Because I just imagine the grind. I've had former teachers here, or parents, or former or founders that their parents were teachers. The grind is crazy. I do not. That's why people always ask me, Ron, why did you become a teacher? UST always throws me that question. I'm an active participant in TIC, Tomasino Center, obviously because I love my school, and I've bled for my school, not because of being an entrepreneur, but because I was former varsity before. When you start donning your school's colors, it never leaves you. You can go away from UST, but UST never leaves you. There you go.
Yeah.
I wanna zoom in on the grind, because every single time I have a former teacher or someone who was influenced by a teacher, they describe it as something that comes out of love. Because imagine the prep time. As a student, you come through in school, you're there the whole day, you're done. After that, if you're not lucky, you have homework. If you're lucky, you don't have homework, and you can still be a kid.
Yes.
Teachers before and after school, still have a lot of work to do. So can you describe that grind and what were those things that you still bring along with you today that translate well into the business world?
Okay. Wow. I'm having flashbacks as well.
Yeah. I hope they're good flashbacks.
To give an idea of what a typical teacher day would be.
Okay.
During that time, I live in Cavite area. So
Which part? I'm in Etivac now.
Shout out Bacoor.
Bacoor, Molino, what?
Bacoor near SM Bacoor.
Okay. Other side. There you go. Near. Okay.
That part now is always traffic.
I'm now in Etivac.
Oh, okay.
So I when I sold Chatbot or told you I bought my mama house, right?
Yes, right.
It's in Cavite. There you go. On the other side naman, near Dasma side, where Noreen's family or Noreen's roots. So I'm literally at the border of Bacoor and Dasma. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So living in Cavite, and my first class starts at 7 a.m.
Holy shit. What time do you wake up?
I have to wake up around 4.
What?
I have to wake up around 4. And sometimes I don't have sleep at all because my days ends at 5 p.m. and have to travel back. And when I reach home, I have to prepare all
Where was the school?
It's in Quezon City.
Why?
The grind daily, no car. I mean, yeah.
Oh my God.
People would see me in MRT having those test paper checking on while riding on MRT.
That's crazy.
That's the grind of a teacher. So shout out to all those teachers. And supposedly I should handle only one year level, which is first year high school.
Okay.
And 4 section.
Okay.
But then my superior kind of sees na, hey, Shumate, I think you can handle more section, more classes.
Budol.
And
there you go.
Yes, eventually, she removed other 3 sections from the first year level, but she spread it out across first year, second year, third year, fourth year.
Oh my God.
So imagine my whole day. So I have in the morning, I have to teach first year and second year, and in the afternoon, third year and fourth year. So my mind also, parang the level of the kind of topics that I have to teach them super diverse because everyone, it's all about history, but different kinds of history. One is in Filipino history, so it's different. One is in geography. And then I have to prepare visual aids. You know, the typical Manila paper, to do gamify because my class boring. It's always dates.
Yeah.
So,
hey, if you were my teacher, I would love you because I love history. I swear. I history is my favorite subject. After that, it's English and probably earth science. Once they started mixing science with math, I started hating it. So fuck this. Like, right.
Of history, but for me, it's history is not just because of the dates or something unique, but my desire why I taught in history because I want the Filipino learners to understand what's the importance of it and what's the relation to your current life and in the future. So that's how I do it. But because the typical curriculum, you have to follow first periodical period, the curriculum, the whatever it is needed.
Yeah,
don't teach it ahead of time. But I'm a rule breaker, perhaps.
That's a founder in you. You're contrarian and you do not follow rules. Good.
Although there are
good indications that you're really meant to be a founder because founders are not here to follow rules. They're here to bend them or sometimes break them.
Bend them. Of course, you cannot break rules unless you know exactly what all of it naman eh, diba? So I try to manage it as well in a way. Okay, there are topics in first periodical that's actually connected to second periodical. Why not combine it? And instead of relying on the typical books that's sometimes obsolete, I always bring them like, let's have film showing. And my students will always say, oh, you're going to love it. And then we have always a discussion. So my grind, going back to your question, starts at 7, ends at 5, and then work for my whatever I need to create, to do the visual aids, the preparation for it. Sometimes I would sleep around 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
And then wake up at 4?
Yeah.
Holy God.
But I no regret, to be honest, having all those hustle, including the travel. And sometimes I actually it actually, the downside of it lang, it affected my health, actually. Kasi
Yeah.
one day, sometimes I forgot my water bottle and you keep on speaking.
Oh
And then
my
eventually,
God.
after that stint, it's only actually, I think, didn't even last for a year. I think 6 months the most. And
Mm.
it's super talagang, I got, super humay talaga ako. And then,
Yeah.
my voice, I started observing na parang, whenever I speak for too long, parang something's wrong na with my voice.
Oh
So,
man.
then eventually sabi ko, okay, even though I love to teach, and then it's not just because of the health issues thing
Yeah.
reason why I stopped teaching in high school. But I also find myself that I want to go beyond the classroom and allow my student to learn not just history but other things that could be more relatable to them and would affect how they're gonna make decisions when they go to college. What kind of course are you gonna take?
Yeah.
Because that's really reality in our education system, that students without the proper guidance, they could be swayed with the kind of passion that they have. I believe passion would really give us direction, but sometimes you need also someone to guide you. Is your passionate really aligned to what's your strength?
Correct.
If not, how are you going to compensate? How are you going to prepare for it if that is something that you really want? And that is lacking in education sector because it's typically you need to learn about math, English, science, more on subject topic
Yep.
things, but not really the things that you have to learn outside when you started going on a bigger bigger area or the university level, something like that.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right, now let's take our last break. First break lang. Let's take our first break, and when we come back, we will now talk about again the office project, how that grind was like, and then after that, how you decided to become an ecosystem builder. Let's talk about that more after the break. Hey hustlers, ever feel like your money's flowing in, but your profits are nowhere to be seen? Is managing your cash a constant source of stress, leaving you anxious about day-to-day operations? Or maybe you're holding back on growth because you're unsure if your finances are really stable. The real problem? You don't have a clear picture of your finances. Without a strategic financial partner, you're basically operating in the dark, always one step away from hidden pitfalls. But what if you had a seasoned fractional CFO who understands these challenges and gives you clear and straightforward steps to increase profits and grow steadily without the cost of a full-time CFO? That's what One CFO delivers. One CFO combines the strategic thinking of experienced CFOs with their own cutting-edge CFO tech platform, giving you transparent, real-time insights that empower you to make smart moves. They're the go-to fractional CFO partner for growing companies like Quick Insure, Avion School, JLabs, Advance, OneLot, ColorRep, and Stash, helping them conquer financial challenges and achieve remarkable growth. Imagine having a crystal clear view of your financial performance and the confidence to execute bold, growth-driving strategies. Ready to level up? Click the link in the description or go to onecfoph.co. That's onecfoph.co right now to book your free no-obligation consultation. Gain clarity in your finances and grow your business with confidence. Click the link or visit onecfoph.co today. And we're back from the break. We are still with the Shoemate, who then told us the amazing and very, very, very inspiring right of being a teacher. But I asked something before the break that I forgot to double down on. What are the skills that you developed being a teacher that translated well to become a founder or an ecosystem builder that you remember? Obviously, the stamina is matic. It's already there. You can grind that long. But what else?
For me, well, definitely grit, but the most important for me is not giving up on your student. Because, these young people are relying on teachers on the knowledge that they're going to learn inside the school. So if I'm going to give and feed them wrong information or not even be inspiring to them, it might affect them in the long run. So that's, for me, it's more on, the grit and understanding that there are people who kind of depend and rely on you because they trusted you that you can do it for them in a way. So it's something na, okay, I'm accountable to these students, to these teachers paying their tuition fee to the school.
Yep.
So really kind of pushes me na I really have to do not just better, but really excellently. And then aside from teaching them the knowledge, but also inspiring them, going beyond the textbook.
All right, sounds good. Now, again, let's go back to you being an accidental founder. There's an investor, you had a co-founder who was an interior designer. You wanted to create a co like Matmo, your own A space in a really prime time location near HB de la Costa. And this is your first time as a founder. Okay, yeah. From teacher shoe to founder shoe. Okay, yeah. What was that like? Walk me through the grind and walk me through the hardest parts of the office project phase of your life.
Okay. Of course, super excited when it was offered to me. Without battling an eyelashes, I say yes without even understanding what would it look like in terms of cash flow, how we're gonna run it, all the business side of it, because I don't have any background in business. Yep. I didn't took any short courses entrepreneurship, but that became an opportunity for me to understand more the space by being involved in some of the organizations, observing some founders. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of founders that I really look up to when it comes to running their businesses. So I try to learn while I'm running the company.
Yep. So no prep work. You're already there.
Prep work. It's like opening your parachute before you can jump into the plane, right?
And just don't die. Mm-hmm.
Just don't die. Just make sure you're gonna float. So I would say the first year we're really excited. So we kind of we want to really target small businesses. So the analogy for our space is actually we want it to like a pot that wherein you planted your seed or whatever it is, and then you're gonna grow it eventually. And then we understand that eventually probably the space won't be your space for the long run, but you can also transfer to another one. So it's like a spaces for small businesses.
Yep.
Also don't really have anything or any place to start with. Yep. So I have a couple of friends who really launched their ideas then, and we supported them. So everything, first year the fund is okay. It's in a way I would say that in the first year of our company, cash flow is also okay. We only have one investor providing all the things that we need, and we had a couple of projects as well. That also allowed me perhaps yung place ko to start understanding and what exactly as an ecosystem builder. So just to put into context as well, while I'm running the co-working space as a founder, I'm actually volunteering on the site in DevCon. So as
teacher shoe pa rin.
Teacher pa rin talaga. So as early as 2013, I got involved in DevCon, and then after a year, I was promoted as the VP for membership. DevCon is profit for tech people, and I am non-tech. Diba? Parang I'm a history. What would I contribute in a tech community?
The history of code. There you go.
But because I saw that my strength is more on people, more on gathering, because patience, understanding every strength of the learning. So I told them, okay, I think I can be your VP for membership. I can help you build your community, make everyone happy so that they volunteer all the more in DevCon. Okay. That's where I started. So while being the VP for membership in DevCon, I'm also the co-working space. So I couldn't drop immediately DevCon because I really believe in the vision of DevCon, equipping the future developers in the country, right? And super, super, a lot of projects that we've got involved in there. So the hustle in the office project, first year, okay. And then second year, there are more players in the market. How can you differentiate yourself? How can you make it, aside from having a beautiful space, what exactly the value you're going to be providing? So during that time, I'm also exploring. I'm also involved in some of the bills in the country, particularly the startup bill before.
Oh, with BAM.
Yes, with BAM. So,
by the way, if you're listening to this comes out on May 12 specifically. Okay, don't forget, Koya Well. Okay, we need jackets. Jimmy Bondok. We need a singer. Philip Salvador. We need more action stars in our Senate. So, don't forget about BAM. Joke lang. Wait, 2019. I had Carl sa Tinitigan to talk about how they actually did this Philippine startup law. And because
Yeah.
of that, we have SGF in DICT, DOST, and DTI. Oh, there. Thank you, Senator Bam. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So what were your participation there?
Yeah, yeah. And actually that started as well for me to be more involved in terms of the government initiative. So I talked to BAMS, happened to be I don't know if I need to do but my investor is actually cousin of BAM. Yeah. So I told my investor, hey, why bring Bam Aquino in our space? I want to do a focus group discussion about this particular bill that is pushing in the Senate, and it will benefit the startup because I already understand during the time already know the fight and plight of the startup founders. You know how hard it is to raise your funding, how hard even to start your business. So we want to position the office project to be a space for people, not just for events, not just for partnership, but also a place wherein you can have dialogue about with government agencies, with the stakeholders involved in the law. So immediately, of course, BAM says yes, and that's also the first time that I met Carl, and then we say, okay, let's have a focus discussion, and then I invited some of my friends in the startup. So different people joined in. It's just a small group, but we submitted whatever inputs that we have for the startup bill, and then eventually we're happy that after how many years made into law. So right, so it's super something that I would say one of the things that I proud of what we did in the office project, not just creating events but being involved in the national initiatives of the government. So yeah, so second year and then third year, it's kind of more hard for us. For the record, the office project started 2015 and we ended our operation 2019. So let's just say 4 years, right? Mga ganyan. But I missed one important piece of the story of the office project. So when we opened in August 2015, that's August 6th to be exact.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of August 2015, unfortunate thing happened. My co-founder, the interior designer, passed away from an climb accident in the mountain. So we had this first outreach project in Zambales that we want to give out school supplies to the Aita community. So I'm supposed to go and join the climbing because I climb, right? So that's where we met before. So I told her I cannot join this climb because we have a client the next day and our staff doesn't know yet how to operate everything. So I just go proceed, climb. I pray for you. Hope everything will be okay, and then just keep me on the loop on everything that you're having there. But things happened, and it's super really unexpected. She died. She passed away together with other 6 climbers out of 50 who went up into the mountain. 6 of them passed away, and was so devastated because I have to pull my friends and say, "Hey guys, most of the climbers are missing, and I'm the only one in the group who knows the entire list of the names." Because I told them, don't remove me in the group chat so that I could still track everything what's happening. And I would say it's the first most challenging I ever faced. Imagine we're not even 1 month in the operation. And the person who approaches me and offered me the opportunity passed away. And
wait, okay, sure. I have to come clean. 2023. My co-founder passed away too. I thought the whole time I was the only guy who went through this. I did not know you went through this too as well. So I want to ask you this because I know vividly how that felt. And I was there. The only difference is that when Joseph, my co-founder in PNA, passed away, I was there literally on the spot where he passed. So again, adds a little bit more trauma to the thing. But the real shocker was finding out and then how the hell do I push this through? Because I got so used. I mean, 2019 to 2023 were pretty much going hand in hand to get that done. But it felt like a totally different startup when you don't have a co-founder. And mind you, this is the first time. So you know my startups before, right? Partyfile, solo founder, Chatbot, solo founder.
Mm.
This is the first time I had a co-founder, and then he passed away. Like, what the fuck, right? I want to ask you how that felt and how did you muster enough strength? Because you were so early in the game. 1 month?
Yeah. Wala pang 1 month.
I remember the first thing that went through my head was like, shit, can I do this? And we were so low on runway. We were right in the middle of funding winter na. It was a grind that it was one mistake away from dying. What was that like? How did that feel? And how did you muster enough strength to keep carrying on?
Yeah. Of course, shock. I was when I received the information. I was texted by a friend. I was actually in a spa at that time, and then I told her, "Stop po muna. I need to attend to something." And I was just like floating. I don't know exactly. I couldn't even cry. I couldn't even. Parang I'm trying to absorb everything that's being downloaded to me because every now and then I would receive message like one of the climbers is actually naanod na ng water, something ganyan. Parang sabi ko, I need wisdom. Definitely, I prayed and asked, Lord, how can I manage this one? I don't know exactly. At that time, I don't know if one of the missing climbers is actually my co-founder. No one told me about it.
No.
On the third day ko pa siya nalaman. Which I think it's also something that I don't know if it probably a divine thing that I didn't know it yet so that I could focus more on how I'll be able to rescue others and then bring them back to Manila, mobilize my friends and mobilize the LGU in Tarlac na how they can bring these people safe in Manila. And on the third day, there I found out that it's my co-founder is actually the second to the last missing body. They couldn't find the two ladies actually. Oof. And during that time, it's almost, I would say, na I would go early in the office. The co-working space became like a rescue mission hub with all the laptops, with my friends in the tech community. Trying to look for any news article, who do we reach out to so that we could retrieve the body, get enough support to bring them to in Manila. Yep. And I kind of have to lead the entire team. So I closed the operation and then my investor says, do whatever it is needed, Shumate, let me know. I'm happy to help. How we can help Doreen na bring be back in Manila. So I'm doing troubleshooting because the other 5 families affected, their parents, thought that it was us who organized the event and they want to sue me.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was thinking, all I want is just an innovation space or a space for startups to start their business. I want to help these people, and why such big challenge start if not even 1 month? Yeah. Couldn't cry, couldn't talk to anyone, but I'm happy at the time. I would say it's divine guidance as well for me by God na that's the snappiest moment in my life that every decision I have to say, the team would follow. Super conflict in a way that a lot of news, GMA, ABS-CBN, saying it's us. Good thing na lang, my name wasn't put there publicly, but I'm really willing to really have a press release. Alam mo yun, yung mga ganun, just to clear things out because I know exactly what happened. So it's really hard, but the emotion part, I would say, to be honest, I'm kind of emotional. I'm easily crying K-drama. Yung mga ganung aspect, but during that moment, all the decisions, the wisdom is there, free-flowing siya. Couldn't, or perhaps I would say I was shocked. I don't know what kind of trauma is that, but that's the snappiest. All the decisions I made are kind of on point. But after a week or 2 or almost a month.
Then it sunk in.
Yeah, that's the moment that whenever I go home, I would cry every night, and my mom would wake me up. I'm crying whilst I'm sleeping, and then I would just
Mm.
tell my mom at moment. I don't know exactly, but definitely grieving, definitely
Yeah.
asking why everything's happening, and then when I finally had an opportunity to sit down with our investor, she also told me, "Should we just start? We're just starting. I know it's really shocking, but please." Let's continue. I'm 100% supportive to you. If you need
Mm.
another co-founder to help you run this one, I'm gonna bring one. And for me, I would say that at that moment I was thinking, should I continue? Like the question that you have in mind, can
Yeah.
I really without anyone guiding you, it's really hard to do it solo. You need someone
Mm.
that will criticize all your crazy ideas so that you will know if it is really
Mm.
really valid or not. And then I just told my investor I'm 100% dedicated to run this one in honor of my friend and in honor of that year-long dream that I had in my notebook, because I know this is a realization of it and I want to honor that one. And I want to do my best while I am given this opportunity to handle it.
Yeah.
So I have to really double down with my strength. I have to study every now and then what exactly are, how do I make sure our cash flow is positive? The things that I couldn't afford to go to any MBA or any entrepreneurial class because I have to run everything. So
Of
I have
course.
to directly from founders. That's why it's really hard at that moment, but I'm really grateful that I have a supportive community, the investors that we have,
Mm.
friends and the family who've been supporting me, and people who understands our journey.
That's
So
amazing. For me, how I because I never got to grieve also, and
mm,
it's weird. Every time I'm probably still not over it because when I talk about it, usually I crack up and I get emotional during a pitch. I'm like, why the fuck am I crying during a pitch? What the hell? This is the worst. I'm not trying to get a pity party here, like pity me. My co-founder passed away. That's not it. It's just that there are times where I least expect it. That's when I ball out. That's like, but how I was able to really get out of this, or at least weather the toughest stretches, was yes, I wanted to do it in honor of him. This is something that we started. If it is going to be me who's going to finish the thing, I will make sure that we finish the thing. But I couldn't pull it off alone. I owed it to my team.
yeah.
My team really stepped up. The person that really helped anchor me was Ivy, who was
Mm,
my intern before our chatbot. I mean, Party File Days Palang was there, who's now my co-founder. And then not just that, it's peers, peers from other founders, like the Kumu founders. My God, they are our co-founder from another startup. That's how vital they are in PNA. That sometimes it doesn't even make sense how why they're helping us, but the type of love and support and problem solving and how many times they bailed our asses out doesn't make sense anymore. A lot, but they continue to help us and to make sure that every step of the way they help out. So that's what. Who am I to just fucking rot and then like, I'm not gonna work. I'm grieving. Fuck no. I
yeah.
owe it to these guys who still believe in what we do. And then yeah, things got better eventually. But I want to understand, Shu, because obviously I'm just gonna breeze through this because we need to talk about the ecosystem as well. So obviously you did this for 4 years and 8 months. You kept chugging away a lot at it. Two things I want to know: when did it become imminent that hey, I can't pull this off alone? And second, when it did fail, what did that feel like?
Okay. Around 3 years in the operation. So my investor, we had a series of meetings already with my investor, and she's telling me, but I could sense already that she wanted to exit because
Mm.
it's really hard. And I would always had this conversation with her. It's really hard.
Mm.
And, parang I owe it to my investor, I owe it to a lot of people who believe in what we're doing.
Mm.
But then eventually I had this meeting with her and told her, this is my proposal, these are the game plan. I know we're really running. We don't even have runway. Although she has the funding. But I don't want, alam mo yun, na parang, because she has all the money pero I'm not returning it back to her. It's kind of parang
bad. Yep.
Bad. So I told her, okay, so this is our current scenario. If you're open, we can add more investors if you want, or are you already on that track na you want to sell the company? To be honest, it's my baby.
Yep.
Way back, right? So I have that even in my heart, parang, should I let it go? Or should I keep on doing it even though I know I'm gonna burn out burn entirely into ashes? And, it's something that, until eventually it settled in my heart now. Okay, we agreed that we're gonna sell the company, whoever's interested, at the asking price that we have. And at the time, I'm happy that there's one lady, it's actually Bambesa, who helped me out, go through it, helped me on the cash flow, how to position it with the investors, and then she really helped me through that season. And then, of course, my principle is, if it is my baby, if someone's interested to buy this out, I want to make sure that we're gonna continue whatever we started, in a way, not to change it into, like, turn it into a spa because the space is beautiful. I want you to continue it as what it is being built, right? So I didn't approach a lot of potential investors at the time. There are only 2 people in my mind, but then I tried. I tried to approach them. So the first one, won't name him na lang. And then he said, yeah, sure, sige, just send it to me. And then I didn't do any follow-up. But the second investor I have in mind, I didn't approach him at all. Perhaps at that time, I was seeing this guy na, I think we're aligned in our mission. We want to advocate for learnings to support the startup, something ganyan. And then one time, he visited my space because we had an activity. He's a guest there. And he told me, Aishu, can you walk me through your space? I said, okay, go. I show you. And then I didn't say anything that were red flag in our books already. No one knows except for my few circle of friends na we're really running na, ganyan. And then after the 5-10 minute tour around the space, he told me, do you think you can build this in Cebu and here in Manila? I've been meaning to build a co-working space even before, but I don't have the time. Can we partner? Wow. And that is the person that I have in mind to approach, but I didn't have the guts to approach him because I was hesitant because the only thing that I can show to him our books are red. We're dying. We can no longer operate. Are you willing to buy it or are you willing to invest? Something ganyan. But it is him who offered it. So, long story short, by the time that we hit our 4th year, which on the 2019, he actually buys it out, of course, at a lower price compared. And then I promised my investor that even though I couldn't return back whatever investment that she has in the space, all the funds that we're gonna get from this new investor goes to her. I won't get anything. So we were able to process that, and my first investor got the money. And then now this new investor told me that, okay, let's build more of it. And then we started designing for new spaces. That's 2019. And then I don't know, Ron, if it is something that, I think it's part of the story naman, pero I would say pa rin that I would name drop him na lang. It was actually Winston Tomarillo who buys
Shout out. There you go.
I'm grateful for what he did because at that time I really don't know what to do. So he's the first person who really approaches me na, hey, can we work together? And I know that at the time we're on the same mission. We want to do things for the startup community, and I said yes. He offered me, okay, while we're building this new co-working space together, can you also manage DevCon as the director? That's
why you made me budol and made me do 5 episodes during 2019. Just kidding.
That's 2019.
I still love the jacket, by the way. I still don't want to. Hoy, I did not get fatter. Okay, I'm leaner now. Actually,
Congratulations for a healthy life.
yes.
That's where. So I think naman Winston deserves that, alam mo yun. I still want to honor and
Yep.
be grateful for what he did for me during that season. So
Mm.
ayun. So sabi nga ng friend ko, grabe ka, Shumate, inako haircut for certain amount million
Mm.
for you to run DevCon. Kasi at the time, ano na yun end of 2019 and then pandemic hits, right? So instead of building the co-working space during the 2020 pandemic, we decided let's not build anything kasi either we're gonna burn money lang. Sabi ko, okay, sige, I'll just focus on DevCon. So from 2019 moving forward to 2023, I really dedicated my life in DevCon. While I still wear the hat na one of these days, we're gonna put up again the space. And then I became more active in the ecosystem building, attended more technical working group in Senate, review some of the bills for digital workforce,
Yep.
for something like that, and then be more active in mentoring. So that's where initially my being from a community building perspective of helping build DevCon and community in the co-working space eventually spans out to becoming okay. How can I bring my communities, this community entrusted to me, to a bigger space and collaborate with other players in the ecosystem? So doon na siya start. So so most of my projects, most of the things, the big projects, both for the government and international projects that I have, like the USAID, happens during my stint in DevCon, managing director. So before stepping in as the managing director of DevCon, I am grateful that I was able to put up the office project before kasi I have to revamp the entire DevCon in terms of registration because I've seen, sabi ko, before I even jump on saying yes, I need to do audit.
Yeah.
What exactly is the status of DevCon? So something different, I found out na may mga need na i-comply in DevCon. So sabi ko, okay, this is my proposal, let's do it. Then register DevCon with a new entity na lang. So yun, so nirevamp ko the DevCon, how we do things, because I would say those are the things that I've learned while running my co-working space. So I applied it in a nonprofit. DevCon is nonprofit.
Right.
We don't have sustainable funding except if we have partners from tech companies who will support the programs, right? So yun. So parang I would say na it's like an experimentation for me because wearing the hat for profit and then applying it to nonprofit and make it really sustainable, it's something that I really want to achieve for DevCon at that time. And then good thing naman, before I even stepped down in 2023, was able to get a USAID grant for amounting to 28 million for DevCon.
Wow.
And I'm happy that we're able to at least collect, at least 11 before the USAID shutdowns kasi 5-year project yun.
Yep, so, before Trump.
Yes, before Trump. So, yeah. So when I left DevCon, at least my heart says na, okay, at least I have a graceful exit and it's time for me to move on to a new venture, which is more focusing on the ecosystem building.
Got it. All right. Now, last question before we take our last break. So, Ken, going through a crazy time in the office project and now DevCon, I want to now understand the skills that you learned during that time and, how did that mold you in preparation to becoming a full-blown ecosystem builder? Because again, in every step of the way, whether good, the bad, the ugly, right? There's always something that we take out of this. And I'd share vital things that I've learned. Like, for example, 2019 me, I would be laughed at by 2025 me. Because there's something that's constant. The hustle always going to be there. The fire will always be there. But how I execute, I've learned poise during the pandemic. Because before, like, too raw, too fiery, cuss all over the place. I still cuss, but I've learned how to develop and adapt my leadership style. And even the way I solve problems is completely different now. Some things carry over, but I've refined myself through the years. And in hindsight, I just saw this post by I shared it on Facebook that at the end of the day, your business is completely hinged on your growth as a founder. And that that founder and your quest for self mastery never ends. So the better you become as a founder, the better you become as a leader. Your evolution from being a 0 to 1 founder to a proper executive will completely benefit your business as you create new versions of you along the way. I want to find out your journey through that. Na from teacher shoe to office project shoe to DevCon shoe. What were those profound changes that happened along the way? And what were those things that held true along the way that never changed?
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Super nice. Super good question. Yeah, I've seen my evolution in a way that I couldn't believe that I'll be in this position, to be honest.
Yeah.
All from when I graduated in college and took the teaching education, parang sabi ko nga, oh, I wanna retire being a teacher because it's really something that I know it's a calling for me.
Yeah.
Parang educate the next generation, something ganyan. And I learned along the way that I'm super passionate. When I put my heart into it, I'm gonna give everything talaga. But putting my passion 100% without the, alam mo yun, the practicality of it and understanding, is your passion really leading you to making it more, parang making your project sustainable? Because it's not enough.
Yeah.
That will really help us to wake up in the day. Alam mo yun, wake up each day na this is what I really want to do. Or some people would say it's your calling, it's something that you really want to really do. The grind, whatever happens, whether you're just alone or with your team. So I need to really also learn each day and then find an opportunity to also connect with the right people, the right mentors, the right partners. I learned along the way that before I would always accept, okay, let's partner, let's do something, let's collaborate and sometimes the partnership goes okay, but sometimes it doesn't work out because perhaps different values or different directions. So it kind of sometimes would break my heart. Hey, I put my heart in this partnership and then suddenly you betray me. Something like that. It happens naman, di ba?
Right.
So along the way, I learned that, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities that will always be waiting for me. As long as my heart, as long as my vision and my desire to help the future founders or the young generations, there's always an opportunity for me. But I need to also be intentional of who I will be partnering with.
Yes.
So it's something that it's like marriage, like in your co-founder or even your investor. Now I've been mentoring a lot of startups, some of the TBIs, and I would always say it doesn't mean that if you have an investor offering you money, you will immediately check their values.
Not in this market. There's so much bad money out here.
Yes, so not parang, yeah, definitely money would help us, push our company. But eventually, you'll be tied up to someone that you will wake up one day na, I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to work with this guy.
And
but
you cannot, it's worse than divorce. Having someone in your cap table that you don't like, that you just realize, holy shit, he just fucked me over. This is going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Dude, it's worse than divorce. The only way out is you buy that guy out or you dilute everyone, including yourself, to dilute that guy out. Or you completely shut down the whole company.
Yes.
All are ugly.
Yes. Yes, I agree on that. And that's something that I learned, and that's something that I would say na I learned through the years na, okay, there are people who are willing to help me, but then eventually, your question, what remains in me all throughout this is the consistency that I want to do something that is always true to who I am.
Yes.
That is always my core. So regardless if I have people putting in money in whatever endeavor that I have, but if we're not aligned with values and the things that we want to do together, parang let's just be friends.
Yeah, there you go.
Friends than business partner, something like that.
Got it.
And one super case scenario, yung nabanggit mo kanina na I have to close it. I have to really put my name out in the two ventures that I was part of. Rather than continue doing it and without peace in my heart, I can always start. Remember, guys, we can always start. There's always a fresh start for every founders.
Yep.
Failing is a part of the journey that we have, but the lesson we have to really take it along the way. And yung number one talaga sa akin is really be intentional and who are we partnering with, whether it be giving you money or mentorship, particularly the mentorship side. Kasi the values that they're giving into you or sharing with you is something that you can also bring while you run your own company naman.
All right. Now let's take our last break. And when we come back, we will now talk about ecosystem building and what is Shu busy building nowadays, and what's the different lens that you now see? Because you mentioned at the very start of the episode that it does not take just one person to just make this through. It requires a village to give it a chance. Again, no guarantees for success. Well, let's talk about that more after the break. Hey, hustlers, before we resume the episode, let me tell you a very quick secret. Do you guys ever wonder how we're able to consistently release episode after episode here in Hustle Share without missing a date over the past 3 years? Well, it's not just pure hustle, because I'm also running my podcast along with me running my startup full time. Now, for some of you who have listened to this podcast, you guys very well know that I created a startup that is designed to help the best podcasters in Southeast Asia to realize their full potential, which is called Podcast Network Asia. And over the past couple of years, we've achieved quite a lot in P&A, helping hundreds of podcasters create world-class episodes consistently. However, what we realize is that we are not really solving the real problem of all podcasters in the world if we're not going to productize the thing that we're very good at, which is helping podcasters solve the two main pain points of a podcaster, which is number one, nobody really likes to edit their own show. Especially if you're listening to your own voice. Just like me, I cringe a lot. Having to listen to my voice for 3 to 4 hours just to release a 1-hour episode. It's no fun. And then the other thing is that most podcasters, just like me, are absolutely clueless on how to properly grow their show, which is something that we have perfected in Podcast Network Asia. So we've decided to put this all in one product that helps any podcaster in the world create world-class shows that people will love and will continuously grow. And that's why we created Podmachine. Podmachine is the most affordable podcast subscription service that helps you with your podcasting needs. We've got everything from audio production, crafting designs, and marketing and growth support. So as a podcaster, you can now just focus on the thing that matters the most, creating great content for your listeners. So, if you are an existing podcaster or someone that actually wants to create their podcast now, no need to worry. You got a founder's discount by listening here on Hustle Share. So sign up now at podmachine.com. And aside from the free trial that you're going to get as a new user, I'm throwing in another one free edit as soon as you sign up for just as low as $49.99 USD a month to start creating a consistent and world-class podcast. Again, that's podmachine.com and use the code HustleShare to get your founder discount. So if you have friends that are podcasters and if you want to have a podcast just like this, y'all know what to do. So just go and talk to you guys in Podmachine. And we're back from the break. We are still with Shoemate Arroyo that told us the amazing stuff. Again, see, I told you this feels like therapy. A lot. So a lot of lessons learned, a lot of experience, a lot of scars and battle scars that you now have. But now you, after DevCon, it's been what, 3 years, more or less, 2.5 years. And you now are busy doing ecosystem building, right? I want to understand, what's the lens that you now have in building ecosystems, and where do you feel, or where do you see a role like you guys are doing, it is important to make sure that people don't do stuff in silos. Because if what people don't realize, TBI, the OST, the ICT, private government, whatever, you guys have aligned objectives. Majority of the time, they just choose not to work together.
Yeah.
So now, startups are all confused. It's like, do I have to choose over one over the other? right? And then there's also, because everybody's doing something, people get confused. Sometimes what's being taught is what's being preached is totally contradicting something else. So the result is more of the same, which I hate to say it, it's mediocrity, right? And in order for the ecosystem to have a chance, we cannot have more of the same.
Yeah.
Just more of the same, we already know what that looks like because that's status quo, right? So what after DevCon, what was the lens you came up with, and what are the next steps you did to really become a full-fledged ecosystem builder?
Okay. Where will I begin? Yep. Even before that, I've been in the startup community, the tech community. As I mentioned, I've been involved in some of the bills, reviewing it. So I've seen that we have actually a lot of, let's say, champions in the government who really want to advocate for the benefit of those people na under their constituency, kumbaga, ganyan. But then sometimes it's only the lens that they're seeing as a policymaker without understanding what's really happening. And I'm just so grateful that I've already seen what's happening on ground.
Yep.
You know, experiencing bootstrapping or doing your own startup, and then hearing the challenges and the pain points of your co-founders and other players and even enablers. Like, I've been consulting in some of the TBIs, and I always ask, I don't know if it's safe to say it, but some of the TBIs are just doing programs just for the sake of having programs.
No, it is true. There, I can name the top like 5, and then there's a massive drop na after that.
Yes. So parang there, I started stepping back and saying na, wait, this is actually what's happening on ground. I know you have good intention. You want to pass all those bills, but please always listen who are the end user, who are the people benefiting it, because otherwise you're just writing it down with the highfalutin words without no one understanding it, no one even benefiting it. So as an ecosystem builder right now, I try as much as possible to also understand all the stakeholders I'm working with, whether it's in the government, what are their pain points? Why are they doing it as well? Why do they keep on doing the same program? Like you mentioned, redundancy in terms of program with lots of funding, sayang, instead of allocating it to the right programs, right? So those are the things that I've been questioning and asking them. And I'm happy that I can question them directly because I am not representing in a way a particular company that would affect everyone, di ba? Parang, and I'm kind of grateful that they also listen naman. There are people championing in our government listening to those insights that we are sharing. As an ecosystem builder right now, so the work that I am doing with the government, siguro just to mention, recently I had an opportunity again to support the National Innovation Day. So it just a couple of days lang yon. So we run the design thinking workshop for almost 60 universities across the Philippines. Wow. That with the goal for these students to have an entrepreneurial mindset.
Teacher Shu ulit. There you go. She's back, but nationwide na. There you go.
It's that the world became my classroom right now. So yun yung nangyari. So parang now, whenever I go back to those agencies, I would give them insight na, hey, instead of just doing it one time, big time, annually, hopefully you'll also do programs directly to these cities or these provinces or these universities so that it would replicate all the more scalability. Parang ganun. Kasi the mindset naman of policymakers, parang they want to really scale, pero sometimes understanding and how to deliver and execute it, doon na nagkakaroon ng mismatch. Parang, whatever you wrote on your paper, sometimes hindi nagmamatch on how we're gonna deliver it. So we need to meet halfway and let's see which one will really work and benefit to the Filipinos, something ganyan. And syempre, one arm lang yung government, the support of the government, but also listening, trying to understand, okay, these enterprises, these companies. Remember, way back in DevCon, I talked to a lot of tech companies, Google, Accenture, Microsoft, and they're always looking for where are the talents you make. DevCon has a talent pool, but why is it we couldn't find the right talent? So it allows me to also have a lens. Okay, even big companies have challenges, even though they have the funding, but they have challenges to look for the right talent. And are enablers like DevCo and other tech community providing trainings for free to kind of help upskill our talent so that whatever is needed in the market, at least ma-provide man lang. So those things that I am seeing, hearing their pain points, seeing even their capacity and how much they're willing to invest just to make sure to lessen their pain points, there I find myself in the middle of everything na, okay, I'm involved in the government, I'm helping some of the corporates, the tech companies, and then I'm also have grassroots engagement with tech people, the young people, the developers, the community. So how can I make sure that all of these will have an opportunity to meet and gather together? I always wear my hat na, I'm definitely sometimes we rally whenever we go to a particular activity or engage with any particular project, we always rally behind what branding do I have, what company do I carry. So for me, my mind is always now not about the company that I represent, whether it be Dream Bigger, the accelerator, or whether it be a nonprofit or the attend doing events for them. But I always carry in my heart as an ecosystem builder, how can I help? Not because it will benefit Dream Bigger, not because it will just benefit one company that I am supporting with, but how can we help the end user or the people that we really want to target and we really want to help? So yun na yung lens ko in a way na parang not something na, because it would benefit any company that I have. Yep.
No, at the end of the day, you're still trying to solve problems, which is what the founders do anyway, right? In the ecosystem, because there's so many out there. And I want to dig into that. What do you think are from a startup ecosystem POV, what do you think are the top problems that persist throughout the years? Because I also have my own take, but I want to know yours muna and do this. Because again, if there are not glue people like you who would bring people together and align their goals, what's going to end up happening, and it's already happening now, are silos. And the silos, when they start creating and they start doing things, there are going to be stark differences. So I'll just call it what it is. I'll go first na lang. For example, I would say the best of the best startup founders here, I'd say these are the ones that are able. I'm not saying they're the best because of them being able to hustle. Every single startup founder has a hustle gene, has a contrarian gene. There's a whatever. You have the same tenet. What's different is their access to resources, access to capital, and the narrative that they come to the ecosystem with. So, for example, fundable startups with that people get funding. So from Foxmont, from Kaya, from the best of the best. If you look at the things that they are able to access, the first major stark difference there is how they develop co-founding teams. Yeah. The roster of the co-founders, one look pa lang, you'll see, holy shit, I want to bet on that. Right? And not to their fault. They're able to concoct or at least venture build a fundable, a bettable startup. No guarantee they're going to be successful. But a lot of people will be able to take a bet because experience pa lang, they're former X amount, blah, blah, or they have enough fam in their team, whatever, right? And it's not their fault they're able to create a fundable startup. First one. Second, they're able to identify a really big market where they have a chance to win along with other startups. Because if this is where a lot of startup founders miss out, like, hey, I want to be the Grab of Legazpi Albay. Okay, you can be the Grab of Legazpi Albay, but if you win that, that's it. That's a ceiling. Yeah. Nobody's gonna invest in you there. Your only path, and there's nothing wrong with this, is pure profit. And that's okay. Ayun. So the TAM, it needs to be in the billions of dollars, not even pesos. Because a big market is supposed to be a market where multiple winners can win. You're not the only one. It's not a zero-sum market. And third is the ability to execute, obviously. Yeah. So team, TAM, traction. Can you, after all the fluff that y'all just said, can you put into fruition crazy growth that resemble a venture fundable startup? Now, if it's not venture fundable startup, because there's so much, the winter is wintering still in 2025 because of, again, market conditions, Trump, and everything else. You need to be able to resemble that you can, number one, create a lot of growth that VCs or angels are going to be able to back, or a lot of growth through revenue so that you don't have to be dependent on that. So 3 tenets, only if you are able to unlock that. And sometimes TBI level startups, I see the difference. Why? Because you know where we are, Shu? I'm still homegrown. Come on, look at me. What the fuck? Diba? I'm homegrown. What the fuck, right? Well, I'm a repeat founder, but I have access to the best. And every time I compare both sides, it saddens me because the difference is wide. And every single year, the gap gets wider and wider and wider. And that's why I think we're ecosystem builders are vital to bridge the gap. Because if you don't, TBI level shit will always do TBI level shit. And when you look at application of who's getting funding, name me 5 startups that did not get, not grant. Grant is great. I love grants. I'm happy there's grants. Name me 5 local startups that been able to get generate significant funding. Even the big time AFAM-led founders pa nga, hirap eh. Yeah. What more TBI level? Diba? Can you name 5? I struggle. I wish I have 5. Pero that's because there's a massive Grand Canyon-esque gap. And that gap gets wider and wider and wider every year. Now, mind you, on the VC play, that's not the only game in town. Sometimes that's what the TBI level and local founders forget na. Hala, I'm not able to raise from Kaya or Foxmont or any other regional founder. I suck. No. What they don't understand is that, you can actually get a grant and take the path of profit, which is the best way. So you're in control of your own destiny, and don't let VC funding define your worthiness to become a startup. But again, I went on a tangent there. I'm passionate about this because on Hustle Share, my contribs to the ecosystem is to provide both sides of the story.
Agree.
Para everybody sees, ganun pala doon. That's why they think this way. Oh, it's like this. So you can bridge that gap. Yes. Eventually, I'll be more active bridging that gap with Hustle Share being a institution.
I'm looking forward to that.
Pero wait lang. Founder pa rin muna. Okay? I need to... Let me finish one thing.
I'm gonna invite you.
One thing that I pride myself in, being a tito in the startup ecosystem. And this is not instilled to me because I'm trying to boost my own ego. Sir Joji, this whole thing that I do is my ode to Joji Azurin. Because he asked me to pay it forward.
Agree.
If he never stopped paying it forward till the last days of his life, who the fuck am I to stop paying it forward? Yeah. Diba? This is his legacy I'm continuing. So I'm doing this because I want to make sure that there's someone every single week trying to bridge that gap. Right? So I wanna make sure that I play the role, and being the role model that I'm not saying I'm a great founder. I've fucked up so much. But the one thing that I can show is that push comes to shove, if you're a founder, your priority should be your startup. Finish the fucking story. That's why I don't want to do too many things. The time I will really go all in on Hustle Share is hopefully, I get one more exit in PNA.
Yes.
So that by that time, I'm not just fucking telling stories. I'm putting money where my mouth is. Because the first exit in Chatbot was for my family. It's for my mom, for my wife. The next exit is for the ecosystem. Because I believe it requires a local, homegrown, Pinoy, Corimao, Pogi, Derek Ramsey looking founder like me. Just kidding. A founder that really cares, that came from the same trope. TBI level shit. I just got lucky na I had access to the best of the best. But if you look at Connect My Roots, my first startup was done in a school.
Oh.
True. UST, my first party file was my thesis in college.
Okay.
So I will never forget that because my bias is always going to be towards a local Pinoy founder because I am that. I look like that and I will forever be that. So yun, sorry, I just wanted to share that thing na ecosystem builders are so vital. But for your point of view, sorry, I went ahead. I asked you a question, then I answered my question. Stupid. Okay, there you go. Go. What's the point of view that you see here? Na, diba? There's more diversity from what 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But the gap is widening every year. Okay, what's your take?
My take, definitely. As you mentioned, yun nga, parang be the bridge to all these players in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because they need someone to also challenge what they're doing, question what they're doing. But I do hope that they'll also be more open. And I'm seeing naman some of them are open, but still there are exclusivity in some organizations.
Yep.
But hopefully we're gonna break it little by little. You cannot break entirely a wall been there for decades, diba? It will be hard. And I do hope that people like you, the founders, those people working as an ecosystem builder or whatever they call themselves, like an enabler, would always rally behind towards that one common ground. Now let's really help the Philippine startup. I really like when you said na homegrown. It's actually, you know what, the company that I built, the co-working, the second version of the co-working space dapat, it's actually Homegrown Innovation Movement or HIMO. Kasi that's HIMO. HIMO in Visaya is to create.
Nasabot ako. Bisaya ako. Okay. Paghimo na kanon. Ayan, there you go.
Yeah. So we really want to support homegrown innovations. In the company that I am part of right now, Filipino-led startup. So Dream Bigger operates both in US and here in Manila. So we're really looking for Filipinos that would really, alam mo yun, not just because we want to see the next Mark Zuckerberg or whatever man, but something that really contribute to the needs, alam mo yun, of the Philippine market or even scale it outside, something ganyan. Diba? So for me, hopefully, I don't know if your question is parang directly ba ano na ba to? Parang more on ending or something?
Sorry. No, I want to know what's the point of view that you feel ecosystem builders fill that gap, because this is not a one-time thing. This is a long game, a very long game that you need to bridge the gap na if you don't bridge that gap, wala. It's like, okay, just like how the Philippine us as a country, you cannot say that the Philippines is poor. No, there's so much money here, but the gap between the wealthiest and the poorest is so it's so wide that it will take generations for even you to get. If you say you came from the bottom, you would not be able to. It's you can on certain times, but they're few and far between. In order for you to achieve social mobility, it would take generations and generations and generations and a lot of luck and a lot of unfair access for you to break generational curses. That's what the startup ecosystem is right now. The gap is wide. And every year, the gap widens and widens and widens. And the ones that are able to go from grassroots to have access to like the Endeavor level type of founders, wide, super wide. So that's where the ecosystem, the bridge builders, the tulays are very important. Because if you don't bridge that, wala. It's gonna go by more bipolar. And then there will come a point na you cannot, it's like, it's two different ecosystems na. And you don't know what's going on. So again, that's my POV. I hope I'm wrong. These are the types of ecosystem takes that I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm right, patay.
That, tama naman. I mean, that's also really something that I've observed through the years being involved in all these different organizations. And siguro, I do hope that while we're continuously helping build those startups, parang, kasi there are agencies, di ba, doing a lot of things that the programs are redundant. I do hope then that they also take the time to review, step back, hey, is this really still effective?
Yeah.
Because there are funds waiting for their agency to just roll it out. But if they're just doing the same program again and again, it defeats the purpose of the hope na magkaroon tayo ng startup talaga who are really into that scalability na. Kasi even the program that whenever I review, I'm not gonna name drop, but whenever I review some programs of the TBI, I would question, why would you put on the first month of the incubation immediately the intellectual property?
Huh? What the IP?
The IP part. Hindi pa solid. Even the idea is not yet solid, but you want the incubatees na you need to process your IP immediately on this.
I don't even have IP. I'm 6 years into the game in PA.
I know there's intention that they want to protect whatever solution. Pero sabi ko, can you first build a solid idea and then build a solid product and you make sure your MVP is really working before you even ask these startups who doesn't even have funds to process their IP? That doesn't make sense. I've been asking a couple of friends working in the incubation and accelerator na, is there any association or any third party who are willing to evaluate all these programs and then says your program is no longer valuable, cut it, reallocate the funding to these other TBIs or other organizations, enablers rather, so that you're not wasting time, money, effort, and resources.
I think there are. You know what they are? Founders. Founders who have actually done it themselves. Because they'll tell you, this is how we got here. This is where we focused on, this is how we executed, and this is what execution, this is what real traction looks like.
Yeah. Yep.
The rest is bullshit.
Yep. The rest. Yeah. And seeing and hearing some of those enablers in a way na parang just doing the same thing over and over again, I don't know, but I still have hope.
Meron yan. Because as an ecosystem builder, community builder, you should be the last one. If not, your candle should not die. Kasi if your candle dies, wala na. The gap will again, it will resemble us as a society in the Philippines. Na a local TBI founder will have a chance. That's why when I see the likes of are you familiar with Juka Laksina, who I've had here a couple weeks ago? Juka Laksina, Go Eden. Homegrown founder. Anak ng farmer. But she had to get out through scholarships and whatnot, study overseas in Michigan State, and I forgot one more school, came back. Pero her heart is still into agriculture. Homegrown, was able to get access to Kaya Founders. And then more funding rounds. Got funded by Wavemaker. Tito Paul. Diba? We need more of those. So I refuse to accept that the best of the best only invests in AFAM-led founders or PhilAm founders. No way. As local TBI level homegrown founders, your job is to level up to that level, because that bar is not going to get lowered. It will never get lowered. You need to catch up. And the only people that can help you catch up are those people who are already there or pretty close to that level. Hilaan pataas, not hilahan pababa. Yan. O, diba? That's a thing. But okay, sorry, we're running out of time. But I want to now understand one last thing, Shu. Where does the sarap come from? Because you mentioned you should not quit. You're not losing hope. What keeps you going? Because this is what you're doing, Shu. Of course, there's a business side of it. But at the core of it is very selfless. It's very teacher-like. It's very vocational. It's very it's coming from your heart, or from your soul. Where do you find that satisfaction to keep doing what you're doing? And what's next? And what do you want to see in their utopian view of the future?
Okay, what keeps me, actually, it's really more on, it's my core. It's something that I don't kind of limit it because I have this role or this title.
Yeah.
But I really believe that for this season, or for this time that I've been given all this opportunity, this is something that I am grateful that I am, I can contribute. So I want to keep that. I want to maintain that. I want to be consistent on that one. It's the young people, whenever I had an activity or an event, whenever I talk to young people and being grateful that they have an access to the programs that we were creating, it's a reward for me already, because these are the future founders that we never know. Well, down the road, 10 years from now, they'll be the one you're going to be hearing in podcasts. And, people who are really doing amazing things for the country. So that's what keeps me going. So whether I wear the hat of a teacher, teaching inside the classroom, or outside, doing mentoring to the startups, my core and my heart will always be that hope that these are the futures, these are the people who will hopefully eventually will see that they're gonna be the one helping our country talaga. They'll be the one who will be not just for the PR purposes. Alam mo yan, marami yung startups. Maraming
Ay,
PR.
nako.
Tanongin mo yung cash flow, parang, ay, red flag na yan, pero ma-PR pa rin. Sorry.
No, that's true.
Reality.
Hype is not traction, guys.
Yes. I agree on that. So yun, going back to that, parang, it keeps me going na I hope that the people that I work with, the young people, the mentors, or the startups, even the young people, would eventually find their North Star as well through these programs, through these activations, through these initiatives that I am being involved. So, yun. What's your question?
My last question: What's next? What do you want to? What are you gonna keep building as an ecosystem builder in the next coming years to come?
Okay, I still have that desire to have my own innovation space, but I want it with a vacation
time. QC ulit.
I wanted a holistic approach of co-working. A lot of founders, number one dyan problem, mental health. The stress, all of it, that how to navigate your business, and then how to even manage your family, especially if you're a family man, how you can make sure that you're providing for your family, but you're still making sure that your company is running okay. It's really hard. And I witnessed that in some of our cohort in Dream Bigger na how they can make sure that their family is still intact. Yep. Family is the priority. No matter how much money you raise, but if you have a broken family and your children doesn't even have a time, you don't even spend time with your children, parang what is it all about? Diba? Parang doesn't make sense at all. So parang for me, my future in the utopia, definitely have an innovation space, the capacity training, everything will happen there, the collaboration, the training, access to funding, everything. And then there's a side of it that you can also relax because there's a vacation area part of it, so that you can balance everything. Not every day is a hustle. Rest is super important, because when we have the right rest, we can now go back and then
not 2 hours a day lang, like how teachers should do that.
Yun. I have my clarity Monday, to be honest. I set that in my calendar. Okay. Monday is clarity Monday every week, so that I could at least step back and then what are the things that I am doing that are effective, and what are the things that doesn't work anymore that I should eliminate na immediately. And I hope yung mga ganong, like the next innovation space that I want is not just providing the space and collaboration, but a holistic approach to how you can be really intentional in being a founder, being an investor, and being an enabler. And syempre, the funding should be overflowing there. So
there you go.
Continues the program, want more scholars if possible, send out people. One of the programs that we want is to really have that tour, and like an innovation tour from Singapore, Maria, bring founders for free. Kumbaga, expose them to all these things because these are the possibilities that also our Filipino founders has the opportunity to experience. Not only for AFAM, sabi mo nga.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We need the AFAMs because if they don't do what they do, there's nothing to look at. We need to show that you can win here. Yeah. But we also need Filipino winners to win with the AFAMs. Because without the AFAMs, wala. What the hell are we gonna do? Diba?
Naman, the Filipino founders, I know we have all those, kung kailangan lang talaga ng guidance, the support that they need.
Again, they need to level up to the AFAM levels. Because you can. I swear. And not be
content, you're always raising funding, but you're not doing any revenue at all. I don't know, there's a couple of startups doing that, just continuously raising funding, which is needed naman. Pero hopefully they also...
No, it's virtually impossible also to raise funding without showing revenue growth.
Agree.
How? Unless you're a hell of a storyteller that you can boodle people based on a vision. But in this climate, doesn't work.
Yep.
Okay. Again, Shu, I wish we had more time, but thank you very much for such an amazing episode. Finally, we got this done. And I'm really happy. But again, if they want to work with you, where do they go and how do they do that?
I'm active in LinkedIn, so just search for my name there, Shumei Troyo. I'm actually active in social media naman. So when people always, or Google me, ganun no? ChatGPT.
GMG. There you go.
Yeah, I'm open for all collaborations in terms of particularly the program design for innovation, trainings and capacity. So happy to jump on that one. So if running hackathons and innovation challenges are the things that I do.
Thank you. All right. Before I let you go, follow us whenever podcast app you're listening to, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. We actually have a YouTube. Check it out so you can see us exactly doing the shenanigans. And again, soon enough, if I get a little bit less busy, we'll also do in-person shoots ulit again. And also, if you did say some jargon, it's going to be the show notes on hustleshare.com. And thank you again to our premium supporters, just like One CFO, Bill Grow, and PLDT, who allow us to do great things. So again, these things cost money, okay? It's not like I just keep yapping. And, this is a business too, but it's a business to pay it forward. And again, if you want to join us in completely paying it forward, you can do so at premium.hustleshare.com. Again, Shu, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.